Today on CityCast Pittsburgh, the year is wrapping up and you might be thinking about picking up a new skill in 2023. Pittsburgh is rich with places to get hands-on culinary training, naturally, given the amazing food in this area. But there are barriers that come with some of those programs. So we're revisiting lead producer Megan Harris's profile of Community Kitchen, an organization that makes training accessible to anyone who wants to learn. It's part of our week calling back to our coolest cuisine episodes. It's Friday, December 30th. I'm Morgan Moody, and this is CityCast Pittsburgh.
I'm with Executive Director and Founder, Jennifer Flanagan, and a current student, Chris Hickman. So Jennifer, we'll start with you. On your website, it says that you use food as the foundation to change lives and strengthen communities. How would you say that Community Kitchen does that?
So we are what you consider an employment-based social enterprise. So we run food service businesses for the sole purpose of training and employing folks to get them into the industry. We do about, depending on the day and depending on the time of year, about 2,000 meals a day through here. And
Wow.
then within the context of those meals is how we do the training program.
And you've got a ton of programs running right now. I was just looking at the list. Culinary training, community meals, catering, a cafe, even butchery now. How do you balance all of that?
Some days it's Tetris and some days it's Jenga, for sure. Our flagship program really is that culinary training program. And that is, that's a 3-month program. It's intended to be kind of a quick train program, but it is diploma based and folks can get transferable credits over to CCAC if they want to go on to an associate's degree.
Yeah.
So it's a fire hose of information. But like I said, it's all integrated into the training. And so the folks that are in the training, Chris can certainly speak to this, you get a lot of exposure to different kinds of meals. And the idea is that, I personally, I love the industry. I love the food industry. I think it can be a platform for opportunity, a platform for economic mobility if you work with the right employers. We certainly do. But I think it's a great industry, especially for people who have been out of the workforce for a while or are trying to change careers. You gotta love it, but I do. So
Yeah, and I saw that you've had close to knocking on 400 students graduate. Is that correct?
yeah, we're
Big
getting
smiles
up
there.
Yeah, I love it because as we put people out into the industry, they move up, they become managers, they hire graduates. It's becoming, the network that I had envisioned when starting this, in terms of, because, and I think everybody knows this, for a long time, the industry has been, it's especially at the management level, at the chef level, it's been very white and male.
Mm-hmm.
And while I love those guys, they're awesome. It is an opportunity for us to diversify the industry as our folks move up into management positions and then hire themselves, which I like to see.
Very cool. Yeah. And you mentioned Chris. We've got Christopher Hickman with us too. You look so official right now with your apron and everything.
Hey.
What's on the lunch menu today?
Honestly, I'm not sure. Also because we just got a new class starting today too. So
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Congratulations.
yes, thank you. A lot of us are moving to, what is it? It's still tier. Is it tier 2 now? Tier 1.
Yeah, you're gonna go into tier 2.
Tier
I can
2.
tell by the color of your shirt. You will be
Yes.
moving into tier 2.
Yes, I will.
Oh, that's funny. Are the students like delineated by t-shirt color?
Yes.
That's so organized.
Yeah, the green shirts are our tier 1, purple shirts are tier 2, and then the coveted black shirt is tier 3.
Oh, yeah.
Congratulations, Chris. It's a big day.
It is. And that's the thing. So, the thing that for me, I loved about the program is just seeing the diversity in it too, because there's a lot of different people that came in with my class as well. And I'm anxious to see the new classes. We haven't seen them yet, but food's a universal language. And I think with this, you're able to really see a person, because when you're asking questions about cultural foods or ethnic foods that they're into or just experiences, you kind of get to see where they're at. And as you grow in this program, from what I've seen, like that's where you find the joy in what comes from this field, because there's always something, and it can go a million miles a minute, but that little understanding that they enjoyed and appreciated the food is always the reward to it.
As a diner, I've always been in awe of restaurant spaces. It just always struck me as like whether you're front of house or back of house, it's like this ballet,
Yes.
people really have to be like incredibly poised and know their positions and work well with others, if the kitchen's really going to sing. So I'm so impressed always with well functioning organizations like that.
Yes.
Chris, I'm curious, as you were looking around at stuff to do, you could have lent your talents to a lot of places. What drew you to Community Kitchen?
My wife had told me about it, and I believe my nephew has gone through the program. So it really came from
Jennifer's
that.
nodding, yeah. So
Yeah.
it sounds like she's aware.
So just hearing from him as well the process of, and I was like, all right, let me see what's going on. And my dad, his granddad, he's been cooking forever. Like never
really?
never professionally, but he's always been the cook of every family event, everything. So I've seen my dad produce food in mass since I was a kid. And
What's his dish? What's his thing?
all right, so I see he doesn't have a thing. He is he'll do
He's got a
barbecue a lot
style?
more. Well, I guess you would say, definitely he would go with the ribs, greens.
Okay.
I guess we would say like traditional soul food in that vein. But my stepmom's Filipino, so he has in more recent years broken down whole hogs.
Wow.
I've seen him break down whole pigs and things like that. So
Did you take the butchery class?
No.
Have you been able to show him a thing or two?
not yet. I'm anticipating that one. That
That's
one's
tier
gonna-
two. That's a tier two
Yes.
course. It starts, so he'll be in there very shortly.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for that. I'm excited to learn how to really break that down. But see, for me, when it comes to him, I'm always the more adventurous one. So I've brought food to him that he's like, I don't know if I'm eating that. But I always tell the funny story, the fact that my dad he's an older gentleman, so he comes from that era. He eats squirrel and rabbit and
Now you're talking about my home folk.
Some
Yeah,
of those-
absolutely.
gamier animals, and I'm like, you'll eat that, but you won't eat jerk chicken, or you won't eat seafood or things like that. I'm like, that's a little
You got to work on them. Yeah.
Okay,
One thing I wanted to jump in,
Yeah.
I think that, Chris had mentioned the range of students that we have here too. And there definitely is, you've got people like Chris who, has done a lot of things and had a lot of options. We also get folks that are overcoming some kind of adversity, right? And it's a very welcoming, safe space for them. We've got people coming out of incarceration. We've got people transitioning from homelessness. We've got people who just experienced a trauma that upended their lives, and they kind of needed to start over. We've got people who were kind of stuck in a low wage job. And because we do pay for our training, it allowed them to quit that job to come here to get trained up for a higher wage position. So it's kind of, it's a real mix of people from all kinds of backgrounds. A commercial kitchen can be a really intimidating space to come
Yeah, no
into.
doubt.
There's a lot of just, lot of stuff going on for sure. And the other thing that I think is nice about the mix of stuff, like we did this, it was a wedding catering this weekend that Chris worked on. But we also do meals for homeless shelters. We do meals for, the kids in the free and reduced lunch meal programs, after school programs and things like that. So it's, and we always like to say that it doesn't matter if it's going to a boardroom or a homeless shelter. There's a dignity in providing food for someone. And we really try to live that and send out food that we would feed our own families.
Absolutely. Well, and those wraparound services and your payment system are kind of what drew CityCast to Community Kitchen. I had seen one of your employees speak, I believe it was Tony Simpson, and she was just speaking so passionately about why it matters that people get paid to do this kind of work, and not just paid, but also rewarded over time as their knowledge and their skills increase. Can you talk a little bit about that commitment and why it's so important to Community Kitchen?
I feel very strongly that we have to give people the wherewithal to invest in their own education and their own training. And a lot of people just cannot do that. They can't take time off for a free program. It just doesn't work for them financially.
Because there are other options for that. Bidwell Training, for example, does a much longer program, but it's unpaid.
Exactly. And it's really important to me to give people that ability to invest in themselves in a way that they can afford it financially. And we try to knock off the other challenges too, like we provide bus transportation, we provide other supportive services as needed. We have a student assistance fund. And I should mention that whenever we have any kind of retail, anything, all the tips go into a student assistance fund. And so if somebody needs emergency rental assistance or help with paying a utility bill or just help getting their driver's license, we have that fund that we can do those kind of flexible, immediate needs for folks. That's really important because I think that it's easy to forget or not know. If you come from a place of privilege, you don't know how hard it is to move through the world if you do not have money.
Yeah.
And you don't have the resources or the contacts. So much of what people do is through contacts. And I think that's another important part of what we do. We try to really create the professional networks for people that they may not have on their own coming in. So we try to make sure that they, meet people in the industry and all of that. But it's really fundamental to what we do. Creating opportunity, it is intentional, right? It doesn't just happen. And we need to make sure that it is intentional for the folks that are marginalized or left out of those conversations traditionally.
And Chris, what's it like, to know that, some of the efforts that you're undertaking, it's not just a tip that you take home, it's going into this fund that helps all of your classmates, whether you see it directly or not?
Well, I think for me, because I have worked other places and industries, primarily when it comes to human service, I've always been that kind of person anyway. And when people feel comfortable like that, they really get to look at themselves as valuable and they're not disposable. And I think that with this program, it has allowed people to do that. And I see it in my other classmates. I see them get excited to walk in the door and feel connected to something because for so long, you can see that some of the life's journeys have taken people. It hasn't been easy. And I think that Community Kitchen is doing an amazing job with providing that kind of space.
Oh, we'll let you get back to the line. Chris Hickman is a student at the Community Kitchen here in Pittsburgh, and Jennifer Flanagan is the executive director and founder of that organization. Thank you both so much for talking to us at CityCast.
Thank you.
Oh, thanks so much for having us.
That's all for today here on CityCast Pittsburgh. Our team this week includes the voice of Megan Harris, Meg Dalton, Mallory Folk, Francesca DeVecco, Elizabeth Kama, and me, Morgan Moody. We'll be off on Monday, but we'll be back in your podcast feeds on Tuesday, January 3rd. Happy New Year. Okay, cookies? I didn't mean to say it like that. That's not the transition.